Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Welcome to the Sabbath afternoon Torah study and prayer service. I hope you're all well and blessed to the Most High. My name's Ovadia, and I'm with Sabbath Keepers Fellowship. Today's lesson is on the commandments found in this week's Torah portion. And as always, before we get started, let's give all due to the Most High with a prayer. Father Yahweh, we come before your throne once again on your Shabbat day, taking our rest, meeting together in a Mikra Kodesh, set-apart gathering, to honor you, to fellowship together, to make a separation and set it apart from our work day. We thank you so much for the rest. You know what's best for us, Father. And you know how we should do this better than we ever could. We ask you to forgive our many sins. Most times when we transgress your Torah, even though we don't mean to, and sometimes when we do. And even when we knowingly sin against you, you're there to forgive us. And the blood of our Messiah atones for those sins and makes us clean again. We thank you for that. Open our minds and our eyes and our hearts to receive wonderful things from your Torah. Let us learn these things, Father, and help us to go do them. In Yehoshua's name, amen. Okay, for the lesson. Baruch atah Yahweh Eloheinu melech haolam noten haTorah. Blessed art thou, Yahweh, our Elohim, who gives us the Torah. Today's portion is Tetzaveh, which translates, you shall command. The title comes from the first significant word in the portion, which is found, the portion is from Shemoth 27:20 through 30:10. And that first passage says, and you are to command, Tetzaveh, the children of Israel, to bring you clear oil of pressed olives for the light, to cause the lamp to burn continually. The parashah, Torah portion, is generally about the creation of the set-apart garments for Aharon, the Kohen Hagadol, or high priest of Israel, and the method of his consecration to office, the creation of the altar of incense, and about the two perpetual daily olah, or ascending offerings, that were to be made in the Mishkan, the tent of meeting, every day. There are 8 counted commandments found in our parashah this week, according to the Rambam, Moshe ben Maimon, and according to most scholars who uphold the traditional count of 613 commands. These commandments are, to get right into it, in order of their appearance. Number 1, that the sons of Aharon are to light the menorah daily and forever. Shemoth, Exodus 27, verse 21, says, in the tent of appointment, outside the veil, which is before the witness, Aharon and his sons are to tend it from evening until morning before Yahweh, a law forever to their generations for the children of Israel. Briefly, it's the duty and the privilege of the sons of Aharon to do this service. They're to light, they tend it in the morning, get it ready for service for the day before everything begins within the Mishkan. And then they light it at sunset and it burns through the night. Unlike the bronze altar, which is kept burning perpetually. But this is a perpetual service of theirs, a law forever. Number 2, The Kohanim must wear the priestly garments during a service. Shemoth 28 verse 2 says, "And you shall make set-apart garments for Aaron your brother, for esteem and for comeliness," or for beauty. You'll note that that is somewhat interpretive. The commandment says that the garments are to be made. The Rambam and the other rabbinical scholars have determined that this means they must wear them during the service. I would say both are true, obviously. But primarily this command is actually that the garments should be made, and they should be made for beauty. That brings to mind, it says, for esteem or glory and comeliness or beauty. There's a concept called the beautification or beautifying a mitzvah. A mitzvah being a commandment. And what does that mean? It means that every time that you keep one of the commandments of the Most High, you have a couple of choices. One, and you might wonder why Orthodox Jews and we and many other groups tend to make a blessing before they do most anything. Sometimes it seems excessive. It's a tradition, in a sense, to make those blessings. But it's also a command that we're to bless the Most High in all we do. What should we be doing? Well, we should be doing His commandments and acts of charity, mercy, loving kindness above and beyond those basic commandments, which are our tutor, the tutor for school children. When we make this declaration, a blessing upon Yahweh for the commandment, we're acknowledging that we're doing it for His sake, for the sake of, there's a phrase, the sake of the kingdom of heaven, which means you're doing it for Him and for His place in His plan, not for your own, or at least not just for your own purposes. Now, He knows the thoughts in the heart. He already knows if you're doing it for His sake, and His sake alone, or for your own purposes. But it helps us, and it helps those we're around to know and acknowledge and bring forefront to mind that that's what we're doing. Indeed, we are doing this act, whatever it might be, in accordance with His commandments, for His sake, and not just our own. It makes us stop and pause and think about our actions. It's a worthy tradition and practice. It needn't be showy or ostentatious. But there's no reason why we shouldn't do that. So we set it apart. Back to this concept of beautifying a mitzvah. It's the same spirit. You can do a mitzvah with a blessing or without, and you can do it in a plain old and dreary fashion, or just very basically, or you can do it the best you can. Your choice. Which do you think that the Most High would find most pleasing? Or which do you think would be the way in which our Messiah would have done the commandments? With esteem and beauty, as best He was able, or just in a mundane fashion to get her done? I can only imagine But when I do, I imagine him performing the commandments of the Most High in a way that put everyone else of his day, and in our day for that matter, or maybe especially, put them to shame. And, you know, he got a lot of attention, and the rabbis contested with him a lot. In other words, they took him seriously in that way. They considered him a threat, which means he must have been doing something or some things to give them that perception. I think that the way in which he walked out the Torah threatened their whole operation, their whole game, their whole model. And I think we should do the same. Even if I'm wrong about that, I really can't imagine that I am. I mean, I can't imagine the Messiah filling the commandments in a dowdy way. When you keep a commandment, do it the best you can. Acknowledge who you're doing it for, not just for the Most High to hear, and not just for the people around you so that they see and understand and learn, but for yourself so that you keep forefront in mind and do the very best job you can for the Most High. And if you do that, you'll also be loving your neighbor as yourself, as well as him, because you'll be doing it in a way that most benefits everyone else. An example, on the Shabbat, prepare the nicest meal. Put on some decent clothes. I mean, you know, some exceptional, your best. We try hard every day to be gracious and loving, at peace, and do the things that he wants us to do, but make even an extra effort above and beyond that on the Sabbath. That's a way of beautifying the commandment. There's no commandment against doing that, trying to do it the best you can. So, in my opinion, that's the meaning behind and the reason for Aharon's garments to be for esteem and comeliness, or glory and beauty. Number 3, the high priest's breastplate must not be loosened from the ephod, the priestly harness or apron. Shemoth 28:28 says, "And they bind the breastplate by means of its rings to the rings of the shoulder garment, the ephod, using a blue cord, so that it is above the embroidered band of the shoulder garment, so that the breastplate does not come loose from the shoulder garment." I think that's somewhat interpretive as well. The commandment is telling us how to fasten the breastplate, the koshain, with the 12 stones on it. Rambam and the rabbis interpret that to mean that it shouldn't be loosened. I of course would agree, but I think that the commandment itself here is more of an explanation on how to attach the thing. Either way, definitely a command. Number 4, not to tear the priestly garments. Shemoth 28:32 says, "And the opening for his head shall be in the middle of it, a woven binding all around," a reinforced binding, "around its opening, like the opening of a scaled armor, so that it does not tear." Again, the rabbis have interpreted this in kind of an opposite fashion. The language apparently states, the command says there should be an opening and it should be reinforced so that it doesn't tear. The rabbis interpret this to mean one should not tear the priestly garments. again, I would agree. That's absolutely in the spirit of and part of that command. But also I would point out that once more, the commandment is more giving the method and design of the garment and the reason for it. Either way, a commandment and extremely valid. Number 5, the Kohanim, the priests, must eat the sacrificial meat in the temple. Shemot 29 verse 33 says, "And they shall eat those offerings with which the atonement was made, to ordain them, to set them apart. But let a stranger not eat them, because they are set apart." Indeed, the commandment says that they will eat those offerings with which atonement was made for them, to set them apart. Number 6, a non-Kohen must not eat certain sacrificial meats. Shemot 29:33 says, "And Aharon shall burn on it sweet incense morning by morning. As he tends the lamps, he shall burn incense on it." I don't think that is correct. Actually, it should have been the same verse as the previous. "And they shall eat those offerings with which atonement was made, to ordain them, set them apart. But let a stranger not eat them, because they're set apart." So they interpret this same command, the latter part of it, to say that a non-Kohen, it says a stranger here. That would be someone foreign to the covenants, most probably in the Hebrew. But to interpret it that any non-Kohen should not eat of them is also very correct. Absolutely a command. Number 7, to burn incense every day. Shemot 30 verse 7 says, "And Aharon shall burn on it sweet incense morning by morning, as he tends the lamps. He shall burn incense on it." So, every morning. The Rambam says to burn incense every day. That's not very specific, and we'll get to that in the uncounted commandments, I think. Number 8, not to burn anything on the golden altar, the altar of incense, besides the commanded incense. Shemot 30 verse 9 says, "Do not offer strange incense on it, or an ascending offering, an ola offering, or a grain offering. Do not pour a drink offering on it." Some people tend to get confused when they hear the word altar, mizbeach in Hebrew. They think that it must be an altar for some kind of animal sacrifice. Not true. In this case, it was only for the burning of incense, yet it was still called a mizbeach. And not only to not sacrifice or do other things on the altar, but don't put any incense on the altar which is not mixed according to the recipe given in the Torah for that purpose. That command regarding the incense also says that that incense, that specific set-apart incense, that recipe, is not to be used for other purposes. Don't find that recipe and mix some up for your living room. It's contrary to Torah law. In any case, not to burn anything on the altar of incense. That concludes the counted commands in this week's Torah portion. Pretty straightforward, I think, and they're all valid. Some people might interpret them a little bit different than the way the Rambam did and some other rabbinical scholars, as we did, but they're still commands. Now, which of the commands that were counted here are incumbent upon us. Which one of these commands that I just gave, I almost said, have anything to do with us? They all have to do with us. But it might not be we who do the performing of them. To light the menorah every day, well, that's the duty of the sons of Aaron, no one else. In the earthly Mishkan, in the earthly temple. However, I could easily spiritualize that, and it would not be wrong to do so. There's a lamp in here within all the people of the Most High. And it can be lit with the Spirit of the Most High or not. You get up in the morning, tend to it, make sure that it's in place and in order. And later in the day, or in the morning and the evening, I don't think would be the only time to apply to us, but keep that lamp lit. The Kohanim, the sons of Aaron, have no right to serve on the altar of your own heart. That's for you to do. So, in that sense, it's important. It's an excellent model for us to live by. But the commandment, the physical portion of the commandment, is not for you. The next one, to wear the priestly garments. There are many things about the priestly garments that we could use in a spiritual analogy, but the basic physical fact of the matter is that's not for you or I to do, unless you're a son of Aaron, and unless you're serving in the temple. The breastplate, the same thing. You've read about the armor of the Spirit. In that sense, in a spiritual sense, put on all of these things as your spiritual armor. In a physical sense, we have, unless we're a son of Aaron, no right to don these garments and go before the Most High. Not to tear the priestly garments. Well, as far as reinforcing your spiritual armor, you do that by studying prayer every day and by excellent works of mercy and charity and loving kindness. All these things help to reinforce that armor you've been given, to make sure that the garment doesn't tear. But physically and factually, literally, this command is for the Kohanim and not us. Eating the sacrificial meat. I think that if I was going to spiritualize this one, I would say, bear in mind that I should remember that everybody has their place in the body of Israel, the body of Messiah, and that you're to perform your functions and let those who are designated with other ones do theirs. And be careful never to try and usurp the responsibilities of another. To eat the sacrificial meats. That has to do with the Kohanim and not us. To burn incense every day. I could make the same argument as I made for the lamp. To keep that fire going. But the actual burning of this incense is to be done in the Mishkan only, and only by the Kohanim. So, all of these commandments, literally, physically, don't pertain to you and I unless you're one of the sons of Aaron. You might argue, or want to, or you might not, that well, we're all priests according to the order of Melchizedek, and well, that hasn't been realized yet. For the time being, read the book of Hebrews. Even Yeshua, at this present time, does not wear the mantle of the high priest on earth. The sons of men are still doing that. He reigns in the heavenlies, and he's coming back for his people, and heaven will be brought to earth and rejoined as it always should have been. And at that time, he's absolutely the priest forever, according to order of Melchizedek. I hope you understand that for now, these things are relegated to the sons of Aharon. And a time is coming when our Messiah returns and his reign is established. In any case, the uncounted commandments, uncounted by the rabbis, in Parshat Tetzaveh, there are 7 of them this week. They are, in order of their appearance, number 1, as we pointed out, in contrast to the Rambam's interpretation, that they should make the set-apart garments for Aharon. In fact, the context says that the people of Israel should do that. Certain ones were appointed to do the actual manufacturing, but they represented the people of Israel, beautifying their high priest, their Kohen Hagadol, and the other Kohanim. Something to think about. And they should do that, make those garments, and beautify them according to the instructions of Yahweh. Shemoth 28:2, it says, "And you shall make set-apart garments for Aharon your brother, for esteem and for comeliness," for glory and beauty. Number 2, that the Kohen Hagadol must wear the ephod with the shoham stones, bearing the names of the tribes of Israel on his shoulders as a remembrance whenever he does service in the set-apart place. Shemoth 28 verse 12 says, "And Aharon shall bear their names before Yahweh on his shoulders for a remembrance." That's a command. In any case, the 2 shoham stones were worn on his shoulder as fastened to the ephod, that harness or apron, and they had all the 12 tribes of Israel engraved into them. And he was not to go in to the set-apart place without them all. What might that mean for us? I can tell you one thing that I think it certainly means. You're not alone. And in the temple of your heart, there should be room and fellowship and love for all 12 tribes and the great multitude who have come to be part of the commonwealth of Israel. I was listening to the lyrics of a song yesterday, I think it was, and I noticed that the song was a great thankfulness and a plea for the Spirit to reside inside a person. And absolutely beautiful. But I couldn't help but notice that nowhere in the song did it mention anyone but I, me, and my. And although I agree with everything the song said, I think too many of us think that we can do this alone, or the relationship is first and foremost always with ourselves. Individually, we have to deal with the Most High and to work out our own salvation with fear and trembling. That cannot be exclusive of the entirety of the people of Israel. He didn't make his covenant with you. He made it with all the children of Israel, together, in unity. When the Kohen HaGadol went into the set-apart place, he didn't go in for himself. He went in on behalf of all the children of Israel, and he was to bear that load, that burden on his shoulders. We should do the same. We should never forget or disinclude our brothers and sisters in Israel. We're in this together. If you want to be in it alone, you're not invited. Simple as that. That goes hand in hand with the next one, number 3. That the Kohen HaGadol must wear the koshen, the breastplate, bearing the names of the tribes of Yisrael over his heart as a remembrance whenever he does service in the set-apart place. It's a commandment that the rabbis did not count that one, at least not in that way. Notice again, all 12 tribes. Why does he have the 12 tribes borne on his shoulders and on the breastplate? Why on the ephod and the breastplate? Seems redundant, yeah? No. Well, it is redundant, but for a reason. He bears them on his shoulders, and he also bears them over his heart. It's not simply a load he carries, but it's a load of love. Not just a physical or a daily thing that one must do, but something that lives inside you, that you care about. And the commandment says, and Aharon shall bear the names of the sons of Yisrael on the breastplate, the koshen, the breastplate of judgment, over his heart, when he goes into the set-apart place, for a remembrance before Yahweh, continually, tamid in Hebrew, perpetually, without cessation. Number 4. That Aharon and his sons, along with the set-apart garments, must be ordained into their service according to the instructions of Yahweh. Shemoth 29:29 says, and the set-apart garments of Aharon and his sons after him, to be anointed in and then to be ordained in them. This is a command that they have to be ordained into service, and they're wearing the garments, obviously, when that happens. They weren't permitted or allowed to go in to do service until they had been anointed and ordained, consecrated to office, according to the instructions of Yahweh, doing it his way, not in any way they decided or some other way. Number 5, that the Kohanim shall make the morning and evening Olah offerings at the door of the Ohel Moed, perpetually. The morning and evening sacrifices. Shemoth 29, 38 through 42 says, and this is what you prepare on the altar. Now this would not be the incense altar. This is the bronze altar outside the front door of the Mishkan. And this is what you prepare on the altar. 2 lambs, a year old, daily, continually. Prepare the one lamb in the morning, and the other lamb you prepare between the evenings, bein ha'arvi'im, and 1/10 of an ephah flour mixed with 1/4 of a hin of pressed oil, and 1/4 of a hin of wine as a drink offering, with the one lamb, and prepare the other lamb between the evenings, and with it prepare the grain offering and the drink offering, as in the morning, for a sweet fragrance, an offering made by fire to Yahweh, a continual ascending offering for your generations at the door of the Ohel Moed, the tent of appointment, before Yahweh, where I shall meet with you to speak with you. This is the responsibility of the Kohanim. The very first and the very last offering they made every day was an olah offering, an ascending offering, a whole burnt offering, completely consumed and going up to the Most High. In other words, that's how we start and that's how we end our day. And doing service to the Most High, giving up everything, morning and night. They were to do this and without fail, and as you should all well know, that happens to be the moment that our Savior, Yehoshua, our Messiah, was offered up on the stake, and at the moment in the afternoon when he gave up his spirit. Even though we can't do these commands now without a temple, and they should live in our hearts and never be forgotten. Number 6, that the children of Yahweh should make the altar of incense. Mizbeach HaKitar Kereth. Shemot 30, verse 1 and 2. And you shall make an altar to burn incense on it. Make it of acacia wood, a cubit long and a cubit wide. It is a square, and 2 cubits high. Its horns of the same. To make the altar, not only to burn the incense on it. That's the command. Number 7. That the Kohen Hagadol shall burn incense on the altar of incense each morning as he tends the menorah, and each evening as he lights the menorah. Shemot 30, verse 7 and 8. And Aharon shall burn on it sweet incense morning by morning. As he tends the lamps, he shall burn incense on it. And when Aharon lights the lamps between the evenings, he shall burn incense on it, a continual incense before Yahweh throughout your generations. This incense was said to be a sweet savor in the nostrils of the Most High. We assume it's a figurative description. When he tends the lamps in the morning, he also burns incense. And when he lights the lamps in the evening, he also burns incense. No matter what you're doing, morning or evening, just doing the labor and preparing, or doing the lighting. No matter what you're doing, the commandment should be beautified. Again, the incense was burned as a pleasing aroma. I hope you understand. Okay. That quick are the commandments for this week. All of them, almost all of them, to do with the preparing of the Mishkan. Note that not counted is every individual tiny and specific commandment, or instruction rather, given within the Torah portion. They're not every one of them counted as a separate command. And we had last week that we should build the Mishkan according to its instructions. So that commandment has already been given. The instructions are given. The ones you're hearing now, by and large, should be things that aren't specifically included in only the building and making of the Mishkan, but in its operation and restrictions that apply within it. In other words, we already had a command to build the Mishkan, and we don't need to describe as a commandment every instruction, every detail. But anything that tends to be separate from the actual building of the Mishkan, or at least unique, notable, is counted as a separate command. That is generally the way that the rabbis did it, and it's the way we make the same decisions as to whether or not something is counted as a command. Hope that made sense.